Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're just starting today's event. We're live streaming on YouTube and in various places on the social media and in the Zoom room. Type in exactly where you're watching us from as we get the event underway. We're going to put on a little timer, which is your opportunity to check who's here and give them a prompter if they're not. Okay, for those people who've just joined us, if you don't speak English, that's not a problem because we do have closed captions, which will run simultaneously here on YouTube and in the Zoom room. So have a quick listen to this.
Por favor, vaya a la parte inferior de la pantalla en Zoom o YouTube y haga clic en subtítulos para leer en español.
Kérlek, menjünk képernyő aljára, a Zoomon vagy a YouTube-on, a Closed Caption részre, és ott el tud olvasni magyarul a feliratot.
Silakan klik di layar bawah pada Zoom atau YouTube dan klik caption untuk membaca dalam bahasa Indonesia.
Pour les sous-titres en français, veuillez cliquer au bas de votre écran Zoom ou YouTube sur CC ou Closed Captions.
Zoom または YouTube の画面の下部に移動し、字幕をクリックして日本語で読んでください。
請到屏幕底部點閱隱藏字幕以閱讀中文。
Παρακαλώ πηγαίνετε στο κάτω μέρος της οθόνης, στο Zoom ή στο YouTube και κάντε κλικ στους υπότιτλους για να τα διαβάσετε στα ελληνικά.
請到屏幕底部點擊隱藏字幕以閱讀中文.
אנא עברו לתחתית המסך בזום וביוטיוב ולחצו על תרגום לכתוביות בעברית.
Proszę zejść na dół ekranu na Zoomie lub YouTubie i kliknąć napisy, żeby przeczytać po polsku.
Beautiful. Welcome online, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting the event started today. This is your opportunity each week for us to meet the founder. So a lot of the people who are on here for the first time, perhaps you've watched our opportunity overview, maybe you've looked into some of our breakthrough products, and you're here to dive deeper into getting to know the heart of our organization. Now, with that in mind, our beautiful friend Steve Scott, our founder, literally just got into his house, so perfect timing. And so I'm going to hand the presentation to Steve. Now, before I do, if you don't know Steve, our founder, Steve was one of the most respected people in direct response television for decades. So having sold billions with things like the Total Gem and many other brands you'd know of. I met Steve 17 years ago when he was pioneering the research space in glutathione. And of course, the rest is history. Here we are today. So with that in mind, please welcome Steve Scott.
Hello there. And I did just get in. It's amazing what a flat tire will do to your schedule. Let's see. So I am just trying to arrange my computer so I'm not distracted. Let's see, here we go. Okay. Anyway, how is everybody? I hope that you're having a good week. I'm having a good week. My daughter had to make a choice between running over a board with nails in it or hitting the car to her right or to her left. She wisely decided to go for the board. And so my tire has now been repaired and here I am at home just in time. I wish everything in life was that easy to fix, but unfortunately it isn't. A lot of wonderful things are happening. We had a meeting today for our Greek team, our Greek Neumi family members. Nearly 400 people were on the line, and we had a chance to interview our newest member of our medical board, excuse me, Dr. Soteris Nikolopoulos. Try to say that 10 times. And but he is a brilliant cellular scientist, genetic expression. His 6 years of postdoctorate fellowship after he got his PhD were at America's #1 cancer research center and hospital called Sloan Kettering. Now, MD Anderson would argue that they're #1. but it's a toss-up. I kind of go with Sloan Kettering. Yes. Anyway, so I was on the phone and shared some of the things I'll share with you, but he was on the phone sharing some of the things from his perspective. Now, he joined us a little over a month ago, but he had been on our product for about a month and had seen amazing things happen with himself. So he put a couple of his clients on it. And Dr. Sotiris, like all of our medical board, is very creative, very brilliant. And he actually has pioneered a technology that allows him to actually measure gene expression. And it's amazing. Nobody else in the world has it right now, not by his word, but by the word of one of our other scientists. His program will be taken worldwide by a big company out of, I think it's out of Switzerland. But once he saw the radical difference that he experienced, he had been on liposomal glutathione, the most expensive brand out of Germany, and had never seen anything significant in his own life. Then somebody, oops, let's see, I'm trying to get that window out of the, somebody in our Greek Neumi family, I think it was Andreas, but it might have been George, gave him Neumi to try, and he said it's night and day. He said he had seen almost no difference with the other one, but new glutathione was good for him. With this one, on the other hand, he saw a huge difference, ours. And he said, so I decided to look into your science, and you're completely different. He said, what you have is a breakthrough that makes, in his opinion, liposomal delivery obsolete. And I don't differ. He told me, you know how liposomal gets into the cell? It's called forced diffusion. And what it does, it's the molecules, the particles are too big to get into the pores. So instead of getting into the cell, it sits on the cell. And then various pressures ultimately push it in between cells, and hopefully there's some absorption. There is. Unfortunately, it's pretty inefficient and pretty ineffective. And what we do, our particle size is small enough that it gets right into the pore in the cell. Now, let's talk about how that happens. One strand of your hair or my hair is about 80,000 nanometers thick. A piece of typing paper like this is 100,000 nanometers thick. Imagine trying to slice that into 100,000 slices. Then you'd be down to 1 nanometer. Well, 10 of those slices would be 10 nanometers. The average human cell is 100 nanometers in diameter, but the pores to enter that cell are only 10 nanometers. And liposomal usually ranges between 50 or 60 nanometers all the way up to 900 nanometers. Way too big to get into the cell. So he said, you're speaking to me the first time when we spoke, you're getting into the cell while all others are simply sitting on top of the cell. He said, this is game changing. He says, I know right now you focus on glutathione, but this could be used for delivering almost anything more effectively and efficiently. I agreed. And so anyway, he had a chance to address the Greek associates for about, I'd say 40 minutes. I addressed them for about a half hour to explain our technology. But what we developed is a technology called hydrostat. And but before I get into hydrostat, let me tell you a little bit about glutathione for those of you that don't know. Glutathione is the single most important molecule in life other than oxygen and water. And it's just as important because without glutathione, there'd be no life on Earth. There'd be no plants, no trees, no fish, no birds, no insects, nothing. All of life is wiped out without glutathione, just like oxygen. And people say, how can that be? Well, glutathione is God's miracle molecule. It's the most studied molecule in medicinal science. Now, of course, my battery is saying your Mac will soon what's this? Will soon go out of power if not plugged into a power outlet. So if you will excuse me for, well, you know what? Let me see how much power my phone has. Michael, hopefully you're there. Can you let me in if I call in on my phone? Are you there, Michael? Just as a backup. I'm sorry. If I hadn't had the flat tire to deal with, I think we would have been fine. NEMI. But isn't that life? Isn't life like this? You can have a plan, and all plans are subject to change. All plans are subject to failure. The good news is when you're smart, oh no, come on, it's asking me to get, here we go. Okay, Neumi Online. It's letting me in. Okay, now I'm going to turn my computer off.
Steve, I'm going to just have to make you a co-host on the other device. Just give me 1 second. All right, try unmuting that one.
I just did, but I'm looking at a still frame.
That's
Here, I'm
right.
going to get out of Neumi. There we go. Okay, and Michael always tells me it's better to turn the phone sideways, but then it's kind of goofy on this computer, so, or on this phone, which is sitting on the computer. Anyway, at 76, you're just glad things work, you know, and that's my age. I'm 76. There's Jackie Gimmel. Hello, Jackie. And at 77, which is what I'll be in August, we'll see how things are going. But anyway, glutathione is critically important. It performs over 400 functions in your body that we know about. Now, I said it's the most studied molecule in all of medicine, medical science, over 197,000 studies. So I'll be in a room with 400 or 500 doctors lecturing on this, and I'll say, how many of you know about glutathione? About half the hands go up. How many of you know a lot about glutathione? And a bunch of hands will still go up. I can ask 2 questions and find out they almost don't know anything. Why? There's 197,000 studies, and 1,000 new studies are being added about every month and a half. How could anybody keep up with that? But anyway, why is it the most studied? Because it impacts everything in your life. It impacts how you get through your day. How you get through your day mentally, physically. When do your battery charge? When do your batteries run out? When do you get physically fatigued, mentally fatigued? How well do you respond to bacterial and viruses that are constantly assaulting your body? If you get sick, how fast do you recover? If you don't get sick, why? Well, believe it or not, it's all glutathione. And how about when you perform? How about when you work out? Okay. How long does it take you to recover? Do you recover overnight to where you're not sore? Or do you recover 2 days later? If you run a marathon, do you recover in 3 or 4 weeks, or do you recover in 3 or 4 days? All of that is related to glutathione. Now, what is glutathione? Glutathione is a tripeptide, which means it's 3 amino acids in one chain. And that those 3 amino acids are cysteine, glycine, and glutamic acid, or L-glutamate, either one, same thing. And they're made by every cell in your body. Your cell takes these 3 amino acids and sews them together into one molecule through a 100 sequential step electrochemical process. Now, that's pretty amazing, considered there's no cell life without it. And yet it's sequential. It had to be there on day 1. Right when the cell was created, glutathione had to be present. Amazing, huh? So anyway, it is the first line of defense for your cell. Anytime there's a viral attack, anytime there are chemicals in the cell, which right now everybody on this call has at least 200 industrial chemicals in your cells right now. By the way, the reason my eyes are dark is because my camera is adjusting to all the light behind me. I don't have a key light on my face right now, for which I apologize, but I'm had to run back here to get on the phone. But here, maybe if I brighten my computer up before it runs out of battery. Nope, a little bit, not much. Anyway, as you can tell, I'm a little scattered. That's called ADD-HD. I'm the highest ADD ever measured by the University of Utah. That's something to be excited about. My wife was thrilled when the scientist told her that. After measuring my brain, they brain mapped my brain. Anyway, so glutathione is the most studied because it does the most things. It impacts virtually everything. In fact, a famous Harvard heart surgeon named Dr. Mehmet Oz, who used to have his own television show every day, 5 days a week, and he started a show on glutathione years ago. And the way he opened the show, he said, glutathione, it's the most important antioxidant you've never heard of. Wow, that's something. In fact, he said it's what protects you from the diseases you fear the most. How could he make that statement? Well, do you know they found out that as your glutathione levels decline, and they decline by 8 to 15% per decade, so I'll be 77 this year. That means I've got about 35% of the glutathione that I used to have. That's a 65% drop in glutathione. Not good. Not when every aspect of your body, all your tissues, all your organs, all your cells, all 37 trillion cells rely on glutathione as their defense. But what are some of the ways it defends? Like I started to say before I got distracted, everybody on this call has at least 200 industrial chemicals in your body right now that don't belong there. They're all toxic to one degree or another. And how does your cell deal with that? It looks for glutathione. Why? Because glutathione is the detoxifier of the cell. It has a sticky sulfur molecule as part of its molecule. It has a sticky sulfhydryl arm, is the right way to say it. And it sticks to the chemical toxin like fly paper sticks to fly, or those sticky spider traps that they have now, and it escorts it out of the cell. Pretty important. Why is that important? Because 95% of all cancers gain traction in the human body because of the broken mitochondrial DNA. What breaks the mitochondrial DNA in the cell? Primarily, it's the chemical load in the cell. So when you have a high chemical load, it ultimately can break the mitochondrial DNA. And once that mitochondrial DNA is broken, the cell is at high risk for mutation and multiplication, better known as cancer. Okay, so what breaks it? Chemical load. What does glutathione do? It lowers the chemical load. Higher levels of glutathione, lower levels of chemicals, thereby prolonging the integrity of the mitochondrial DNA. Critical. Cancer right now is the #2 killer, second only to heart disease, but they say in the next 10 years it's going to be #1 and heart disease will be #2. So that's not good. Anyway, glutathione protects the mitochondrial DNA by lowering the chemical load in the cell. What else does it do? Well, it is, without glutathione, there'd be no oxygen transfer. You see those hemoglobin, red blood cells that you have, they have iron in them. And if the iron is charged at a +3, it can't bind to glutathione. It has to be reduced to a +2 in order to attach to glutathione and deliver it to every cell in the body. Glutathione is the sole reduction agent of hemoglobin. So no glutathione, no oxygen transfer. Breathe in that nice air into your lungs. Guess what? It'll stay there. It will never be transferred, okay, into your bloodstream. It'll never be picked up by your bloodstream, and you'll die quickly, just a few minutes. So that's pretty important. It's the detoxifier. What else is it? It's the chelator. We end up getting heavy metals like arsenic, cadmium, mercury, gadolinium, just a bunch of them. And our cells can't get rid of them naturally. They look to glutathione. Glutathione is the primary chelator of heavy metals. So that's another critical area. What glutathione is best known for is its antioxidant function. Now, we've all heard of antioxidants: vitamin C, vitamin E, vitamin A, CoQ10, superoxide dismutase, catalase, cysteine, glutathione, N-acetylcysteine. We've all heard of those antioxidants. But what are antioxidants? Well, every cell in your body is attacked by 10 to 20,000 free radicals every day. So, Michael, let's show them what the number 20,000 looks like. I think he can pull it up.
Hang on, I had the cells all queued to go. Let me get it.
Oh, well, we can show them a cell if you want to start there.
Let me do that. Well, back to this page. We're good. All right, here's your cells first off.
Okay, so this is a computer image. It's not a picture but this is what your cell looks like. Now, it doesn't show the DNA, it doesn't show the atoms, it doesn't show the neutrons and electrons, it doesn't show the DNA, but it shows you the basic parts of the cell. All of those parts, most of them are in motion. They're all using energy. Your cell, every single cell, 37.5 million cells. Each cell is more complex than the most complex machine ever built by mankind, which was the Saturn V moon system. Saturn V rocket, 7.5 million pounds of thrust, capsule on top, a lunar orbiter here, first stage, second stage, and now you've got all that together, and that whole system is the most complex. It took 35,000 engineers 8 years to design and develop that system. Every cell in your body is more complex than that. More systems operating, relying on each other, operating in sync. And that doesn't count the trillions times trillions times trillions of trillions non-covalent bonds that are operating in sync in your cells. It's amazing. Each cell has 2 meters of DNA. 2 meters if you had it as a single thread. It's a double helix, and what does that mean? That means you could make 13 round trips to the sun and back from one strand of from the DNA in your cells. Take all 37 trillion cells, take the DNA out, sew them into one strand. You can make 13 round trips to the sun. Pretty cool. Anyway, so maintaining that cell, keeping that cell healthy is not easy. Protecting it is not easy, but that is the function of glutathione. Now, every cell, Michael's going to show you what 20,000 looks like. Okay, that's 20,000 people. So you got 20,000 free radicals attacking each cell. So if you were the one person in the middle of the court, there was only one person down there, and the announcer says, okay, everybody that can land a blow to that guy that's on the court side in the middle, you're going to be handed a check for $1 million. All you have to do is land one blow. There'll be ink on your hand, and we'll know that you get the $1 million along with everybody else. Okay, that's what your cell goes through every day. Now, in 5 days, look at what each cell has to deal with. 100,000 free radical attacks. Wow, against one. That's what your cells go through. Now, glutathione, the way your cells counter free radicals, a free radical is a scavenger, a thief. It wants to steal an electron from the cell. And when it steals that electron, it creates oxidative stress. Now, oxidative stress is a bad news, baby. It opens the gateway, believe it or not, because you don't have enough glutathione, to 78 disease classes. And we'll talk about that in a second. Oxidative stress, number one, it puts inflammation in that cell. So think back on the picture of the cell you just saw. Now imagine plopping some mud in there, creating an obstacle for the free exchange and for all of the interactions that have to take place. It gums up the works. Or as my friends in Australia say, it mucks it up. Okay? And that's what a free radical does. It causes inflammation that mucks up the cell, and it accelerates the aging of the cell. Every brain cell, every heart cell, your eye cell, your ears, your skin, everything ages faster because of oxidative stress. And so inflammation, accelerated aging, and not last but not least, oxidative stress produces more free radicals, which produce more oxidative stress, which produce, so it's a vicious cycle, just keeps going. Well, the way you interrupt that cycle is with antioxidants. Now, there's a host of free radicals. They have different sources, different chemical compositions, different structures. Some are sourced in nitrogen, some in hydrogen in our body, some in oxygen. And all antioxidants except glutathione are monofocused. So that means vitamin C can take out this guy and leave all of those. Vitamin E can take out that one, leave all those. CoQ10, superoxide dismutase, catalase, they're all monofocused. Glutathione isn't monofocused. It's called the master antioxidant because it can sequester and neutralize all free radicals, regardless of their structure, their source, or their chemical composition. The only thing that can. That's why it's called the master antioxidant. It's more than 1,000,000 times more powerful and broad range effective, in other words, across all free radicals, than all of the other antioxidants combined. Crazy, huh? And that's its antioxidant value. Now, when you can raise glutathione levels, what are some of the things that happen? Well, of course, it helps with oxygen transfer. Of course, it detoxifies the cells and helps lower that chemical load that breaks the mitochondrial DNA. Of course, it chelates the heavy metals. Acquaintance of mine that sold over 100 million copies of one book called Chicken Soup for the Chicken Soup for the Soul. Mark Victor Hansen, he had mercury poisoning, and it was my past glutathione product that saved his life, turned it around. And it had to be chelated out of his system, and nothing they tried at Harvard was doing it. I met his girlfriend. I gave her the product. She tried it. Mark tried it, and in 30 days, he was whole and healthy again. And they had told him he had about 6 months to live. And still alive today. That was many, many years ago. It was generation one of my entrance into glutathione enhancement. Compared to what we have today, it's like comparing a skateboard to a supersonic fighter. And we're much more advanced. And we see a much broader range and a much faster reactions and responses with what we have in our hydrostat technology. So we have this problem. Our glutathione levels are declining at a rate of 8 to 15% per decade. So if you're 40 years old, that's 30, 40, you have at best 20% less glutathione than you had at 20. It might be as bad as 15, 30, 45% less. All depends on your own circumstances, a whole bunch of circumstances. At 60 or 76, my glutathione levels down to it's down by 65% over what it was at 20. But the need for it as a defensive mechanism, the need for it as a healing mechanism, I didn't get into what we do for the immune system. I forgot that one. Never goes down. Those go up. How does it work on defenses? Well, anytime you encounter bacteria or virus and they enter your body through your skin, through your breathing, through what you eat, you drink, just touching something, whenever we encounter bacterial or viral insult, your immune system goes to work and starts producing very quickly, rapidly, instantly T cells and B cells. Those are the assassins, primarily the T cell. And those T cells target the bacteria or virus and they start trying to kill it. Well, the bacteria or virus is reproducing rapidly. And if you have low glutathione levels, the T cells will reproduce slowly. And guess who wins? We saw that in the pandemic. The virus wins, the bacteria wins, because your T cells can't reproduce fast enough. On the other hand, if you have higher glutathione levels, guess what happens? Now, even though the virus or bacteria is reproducing rapidly, the T cells reproduce rapidly. They catch up, kill it, and you start to get better faster. And so it's critical. It's the sole protector of the immune system. No other protector other than glutathione. Pretty crazy. Okay, you can see. Now that's 4 functions out of 400 that we know about. There might be 1,000 more that we don't know about. Recently, I met this doctor. I think I already mentioned that, Dr. Nikolopoulos from Greece, and he's a genetic scientist, genetic medicine, cellular. And guess what? By measuring the gene expressions of some of his clients, he saw a change in influencing critical genes within 2 weeks. He was blown away. In fact, he's seeing results that he calls miraculous. And do you know, behind your body's response to every illness, every injury, everything, every system in your body, you have thousands of systems. Every system is highly impacted by gene influence. Wherever there's something that is really giving doctors terrible outcomes and they're not seeing much response pharmaceutically, usually there's a malfunctioning gene. Either it's overproducing or underproducing its response, and you suffer the consequences. Well, he had several clients where he tested some of the key genes, and they all were coming back to normal in two weeks to 3 months. I mean, it was mind-boggling. So he and I have had a good time. We have another genetic scientist on our medical board, and I put them together, and the 3 of us, man, we were like kids in a candy shop. We couldn't get enough. And so we're going to do a lot of work with him. In fact, I get to meet with him the week of May 8th through May 11th. I can't wait. I'm going to spend time with him in Greece. And but glutathione is just critical. Now, with the decline, there's other ways you can try to get glutathione. You can go to any health food store. Uh-oh, what's happening?
Oh, good.
Am I good? Okay, good. Thank you, Michael. I don't know what happened. You go to any health food store and buy glutathione capsules. The problem is they don't work that well. Dr. Nikolopoulos was buying the most expensive, best brand of liposomal glutathione from Germany. I mean, he went first class and he felt a little bit different, but not much. Got on our product and boom, right away. He said, this is just amazing. What's the difference? Okay, remember the pore size in your cells is only 10 nanometers. Liposomes too big, can't get in. So they enter somewhat inefficiently through what's called forced diffusion. We're entering directly through the pore. Our particle size is small enough. Okay, let's get down to brass tacks. So we developed this hydrostat technology. We started working on it in 2016 and had it fully developed by 2019, but developed good enough to start marketing it in 2000, toward the end of 2018. And the results we were seeing were amazing. I knew if it really worked, we'd see a big result in human performance. And what better way to measure human performance than to see what happens with athletes? So the first athlete I gave it to was an endurance athlete, and his workout every day. Try this tonight. He'd run on a treadmill for an hour at a 25-degree incline. Then he would jump off of that, jump onto an intense rower, and he would intensively row for an hour, and then he would get off, and that was his daily workout. Well, I gave him some Memorial Day of 2018. He called me that night. He said, "This is the most incredible product of my life." And he told me all the things he saw while he was working out. Miraculous. I decided to send it to a friend of mine who was the former strength and conditioning coach for a National Football League team, the Seattle Seahawks. Sent it to Bill. He's also an amateur weightlifter, and he specializes in the bench press. Now, as an amateur, he gets his blood tested every meet to make sure that there's no drugs in there. And so Bill, let's show the chart. So you can see that high point there that says 804. That's 804 pounds was his bench press in 2008 at the age of 49. And that was the world record at the time. So I called Bill in 2018, 10 years later, said, "How you doing?" He said, "Not good." I said, "How's the job?" He says, "Everything great on the job. But Steve, because of my decline in lean muscle, I can only lift heavy once a week. I used to lift heavy 4 times a week." He said, "My bench press is in the toilet." I said, "How much are you lifting?" He said, "About 700 pounds. Well, that's about 330 kilos. And I said, "Bill, that's a lot of weight for a 59-year-old. He said, "Yeah, it's a world record for a 59-year-old, but I don't get to compete with the elite guys anymore." And I said, "Well, I'm going to send you our product. I think it's going to make a difference. Let's show him what happened when he started using our product." He went that year as a 59-year-old to 915 pounds, set a new world record. As a 60-year-old, he went to 1,050 pounds, a new world record. And as a 62-year-old at his retirement meet, he successfully bench pressed 512 kilos. That's 1,129.8 pounds, the weight of a grand piano, and a lot of weight. How can that happen? How can a man at 62 lift 40% more weight than he lifted in his prime at 49, 13 years earlier? Reduced oxidative stress. It makes that big of a difference. Now, one of our athletes was in an accident. She was breaking all of her records in the she was a marathoner and a cyclist, and she was breaking her records in her cycling, 100-mile event. And at mile 38, she got in an accident, went end over end, hit the pavement so hard, it broke her helmet, knocked her out, and her face hit the pavement at 22 miles an hour. She was hospitalized that day, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, came home Tuesday night. But her face was shredded. Abrasions, scabs, road rash. I mean, it was horrible. The plastic surgeon said that would take 5 weeks to clear. And then she'd need to wait 60 days after that, come in, and they would work out the protocol for the scars. Well, she gets home on Tuesday night and thinks, "Hey, this stuff's small particle. Maybe it'll make a difference with my face." So she poured some on a cotton ball, did it on her face, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday did that same thing 3 times each of those days. By Sunday, her face was completely clear, not a mark, not a scar, not a scab, no rough. The plastic surgeon had never seen anything like this. Well, when I saw it, I thought, my goodness, we may have the world's best skincare product. Now, I've owned 5 cosmetic companies in my life, hundreds of millions of dollars in sales that we used to own with my partners. And I loved hair care. We had Cher as our spokesperson because you could get great before and afters. I loved makeup. We owned a big makeup company. Same thing. We could get great before and afters. Skincare was really hard to get a good before and afters. Well, when I saw what this did for Tammy, I put some in spray bottles, sent it to a small beta group of about 10 women, and said, spray your face 5 times a day for 8 weeks. Take 2 pictures, one at the beginning, one at the end. Look what happened. Let's zoom in on that if we can, Michael. So there we go. Okay, thank you. So this was a 58-year-old, about to turn 59, Sherry, and she works on a farm, lives on a farm, and she sent that after 7 weeks. When I saw that, I thought, without a doubt, this is the world's best skincare. In fact, I sent it to my former formulator, who had become the head formulator for the company that created Botox. And he said, Steve, I hate to tell you, she's had a facelift. There's no topical product in the world that can do that. I said, John, she's a farmer. No needle, no procedure, no laser, no chemical has ever touched her face. This is a first. He said, then you have something nobody else in the world has. And yes, we did. So now we're going to look at a few before and afters that came after that. Those were my hands when I was a lot younger, 71 years old. I sprayed my left hand for 12 weeks. I didn't spray my right. I sprayed my right hand for 12 weeks. I didn't spray my left hand, and you can see the difference. I did it about 4 to 5 times a day. Next, this is an 84-year-old. She sprays throughout the day, she said. She lost count. But look at the difference. Look at her chin, her mouth, her cheeks, her neck. What a radical difference. Looked like she dropped at least 10 or 15 years. This is another 80-year-old, one of our Greek associates, her mother. And she said, I used to have old lady legs. Now I have young lady legs. That was in 10 weeks. Next. Now, this is an esthetician. She owns her own skincare salon in Miami, Florida. She couldn't wait 8 weeks. She sent that after 8 days and said, Steve, where did my pores go? Look at how smooth my skin is. Look how bright. It's tighter, smoother. There's nothing in the world that does this. Well, actually there is, and we have it. Next. This is a 60-year-old, and in 4 weeks, 1 month, it actually looks like she had a facelift too. But look what happened after 6 months. Okay, now go to the next one. Look at that. Now, we met her that year, and honestly, Aaron and I, our CEO, we both thought she was probably 42 to 45. She was 60. Okay, next. Lighter, tighter, brighter, smoother. This man's, I think he's 67. That was 6 weeks. Look at the difference. Brighter, lighter, smoother, tighter, younger. That's what we see. Next. Okay, next. Let's keep going. Okay, this is the young woman. She didn't need much, but look how it evened out her skin tone. Her pores were diminished. Her face looks perfectly smooth, and that was in 10 days. She's 83. You can see the difference. Next. That was 3 weeks, by the way. This was 8 weeks. Now, she was a smoker in her 60s, and so that does a lot of damage to the skin. Well, it looks like most of the damage was undone in that number of weeks. This is just 6 days. That's pretty cool. This was 4 weeks. This is the mother of a physician in Nigeria. The physician gave her the product, and that lightening of the upper half of her face isn't an accident. That's her skin better managing its melanin. Okay, that's what creates the blackness. Okay, next. Let's go. There we go. This is I love this story. He's 94, and he said, I love the new look. But more than the new look, he said, I feel like the guy on the right instead of the guy on the left. And that's what I love the most. Okay, we'll look at one more. Met her last year. Hope to see her again soon. She's 87 years old in Hungary, and she did exactly what the first picture did. She sprayed 5 times a day for 7 weeks. Now look at her face, look at her chin, look at her cheeks, look at her neck. I mean, it's just amazing. She looked like she dropped 20 years. Okay, why do we show you that? 2 reasons, and we're almost done. Number one, yes, to prove that we have the world's best skincare. Go online, look at before and afters with any skincare system, won't even come close. In fact, you'll be squinting, getting real close. You still won't be able to see much of a difference. Don't have to squint on ours. Secondly, the same biochemical action that is fighting accelerated aging in your skin, our glutathione, is being delivered to every cell in the organs of your body, your heart, your brain, your eyes, your ears, your lungs, your kidneys. All of those are getting more glutathione. And guess what's happening? Raise glutathione levels, slow down accelerated aging, and things get better and healthier. And we saw that, of course, with our athletes. Okay, we also found out from doctors on our medical board that our sports medicine doctors in Europe, they have 25 clinics, and their clients are professional athletes and world-class amateur athletes. They said, did you know a runner on your product delays the onset of lactic acid by 16.7%? I said, is that good? He said, nothing in the world can reduce it, change it by even 1%. He said, no, it's the biggest game changer in endurance. That's why we have such rapid recovery. And that's one thing by the way, if you're taking it before a workout or before an event, take it 5 to 10 minutes before the workout, not an hour. Because the half-life of glutathione, any glutathione, once it gets in your cell, even the glutathione that your cells make is between 1 and 4 hours, but the average is 90 minutes. So you want to take it real quick. Now, thankfully, you swish ours, or you could spray, but you swish ours, it gets right into the bloodstream through your mucosa, okay, before you even swallow. Once in the bloodstream, it's in the bloodstream for about 70 seconds, and after one pass of circulation, it's now in the cells in your body. It's that fast acting. That's why nobody's ever seen what we see. Okay, that's what we have. We don't. Our science never sleeps. We keep testing new things. We plan on bringing a lot. And now that we're working with Dr. Nikolopoulos, we think we're going to be able to develop products that are as life-changing as our first one, and maybe even more targeted products. So that's where we are. And Michael, I want to turn it back to you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Steve. What a great insight to the breakthrough we have. And just like Steve said earlier, 300 plus on a great call. I'm logging off any second now because we've got a brand new team launching with 350 people on a brand new call in just a second. So a lot happening at Neumi. No matter where you are in the world, check this out. Get some product into you and get back to the person who sent you to this call. And we look forward to